Welcome back to Inside Politics. Our guest today, Dr. John Weil, MTSU political science professor. We're talking about the results from the off-year elections and what they might mean going forward. Dr. Weil, it may be that once again Congress is going to vote on these major infrastructure bills, both the bricks and mortar bill and perhaps the social services bill, although there's been rumored it's going to be voted for, but both bills are supposed to come up, we think, sometime as we're talking on this day on Friday, but we don't know that for sure. I guess the question a lot of people are asking is if Congress had already acted on this, particularly the one that the Democrats control all by themselves because they're passing it through the budget reconciliation, might the Democrats have fared much better in their elections coming up on Tuesday night? Did they kind of miss an opportunity or let down their candidates in the field by not passing these bills?
I think McAuliffe, in Virginia certainly thought so. He thought that if he were able to point to something more concrete that the Democrats had done, that he would have been a lot better off. On the other hand, there are others who fear that, too much spending could reignite inflation, and so it may end up being a wash.
The majorities the Democrats have are workable, but they're so thin. People wonder whether the Democrats, these bills they're trying to pass are so large and they are so potentially transformational. If, to use a boxing term, have they been trying to punch above their weight to try to get these done? Because they really don't have the numbers to do this that you would have seen, say, for Lyndon Johnson for the Great Society or FDR for the New Deal.
I think there's a way in which our recollections of the first 100 days of the Roosevelt administration and also the civil rights advances in the opening months of the Johnson presidency, they sort of set a tone that, as you say, it may be too high a bar. On the other hand, given that almost always the presidential party loses votes, particularly in the House in the midterm elections, if there is an agenda that they want to get done and that they want to take credit for, if they're not able to do it in the next couple months, it's probably not going to get done.
Even if something passes now, and these bills are still large, we're still talking trillions of dollars in both these bills combined particularly. If something passes, will it seem to the public and perhaps even some Democrats that this is more of a disappointment than an accomplishment?
It shouldn't, given the massive amounts involved. It was Dirksen used to say, what was it, $1 million here or $1 billion here and $1 billion there, and you suddenly end up with real money. Now it's suddenly turned to trillions and it's real money. I think you'd have concrete, accomplishments here to point to with either of these bills.
And can the Democrats get these bills implemented? We've had some problems with Obamacare and even trying to get out the stimulus checks, both for tax purposes and also for COVID relief. I mean, it's not been easy to get the get the government sort of functioning and get these things out and into people's hands. Are people going to see enough difference in their lives to make it a difference by the time we come to November next year and we're going to the polls for the 2020 midterms?
That's a great question. I remember one of the bills during the Obama administration, it was going to go to projects that were shovel ready, I think was the term. And it turned out there weren't as many such projects out there as we thought they were. It takes a lot of, you got environmental reports to file and workers to employ and equipment to move, and often it does take longer than we anticipate.
These bills have created real friction between the progressives in the House and the moderates in the Senate, especially Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. Are there going to be any lingering wounds in the party about this? Primary challenges, perhaps, for the two senators in the future?
What was it, Will Rogers? That he didn't belong to a organized political party. He was a Democrat. And to a lesser extent, right now the Trump forces are very dominant, but there is still a wing. It's certainly shriveled, but were the Trumpites sort of to come down in ignominy, particularly over January the 6th, there's a possibility that you would see more fractures within the Republican Party as well.
President Biden has pared down the size of these, particularly of the social services bill, but now something has been added back into it. Family leave, 4 weeks paid family leave has been added back into. Some other things been added into as well in terms of negotiating a lower prescription drug benefits. Doesn't that make it harder to pass that bill when it gets to the Senate? If the bricks and mortar bill passes in the House today, it may go directly to President Biden. That will be a victory, but we still may be a long way away from getting the actual social services infrastructure bill done.
We might, and one of the things that I have been reading is some people think that we're dealing here with funny figures, that, part of what's happened is a program that was supposed to extend for 5 years, you just say, well, it'll only be for two or 3 years. But once it gets in there, it may be very difficult to cut. So I think one of the criticisms of the Democratic proposals right now is they may actually be far more costly than it first appears.
Dr. John Weil, Tennessee State University, thank you so much for coming on the program. You always bring such wisdom and insight when you come on the program and we talk about these issues.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it.
And thank you for being with us on Inside Politics. Hope you'll be back here again for a future show. If you can't get enough politics in the meantime, you can go to the News Channel 5 website. You'll find my Capitol View commentary there. There's new commentary posted every Friday afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you here next time for a show. Goodbye.